Professor. I appreciate this. This is one of the things that I know I look forward to every year, every semester, speaking several classes, hoping that I can relieve some anxiety, at least for some of the students, and answer their questions as best I can. Let me just give you a quick background of myself. Officer Jeff Meier. I've been with the university almost 5 years now. I retired out of the town of Lincoln as a detective sergeant after 24 years on the street. So I think I bring a wealth of experience and knowledge to this department, along with everybody else that's here. I mean, we have an average, I think, of almost 27 or 28 years now of experience per officer in this agency. You know, my chief and my lieutenant are both over 30 years altogether, and I think my chief is actually pushing close to 35 years of experience in law enforcement. So I think it's a very good thing for our student body here, and for the staff members as well. It's just you can't replace experience, and especially in our line of work, when it comes to dealing with situations. So again, 27, almost 28 years going on, 29 years now, I guess, for me. Um, I have a daughter who's a senior here at Plymouth State. I have another one that's my youngest one's a senior in high school here locally. I have two other older children, one that graduated from here several years ago. I have another one that's currently serving the United States Army and is deployed. And I'm fortunate enough and lucky enough to have a grandson and a new grandchild on the way in March. So it's okay. I consider myself the old guy around here, and I make fun of myself all the time for that. But I guess the old adage, age and experience. So um, I think probably, Professor, one of the questions you've always asked me is, what is the major difference between the University Police Department and the Plymouth Police Department? And if that's something, would you like me to address as well?
Sure.
Okay. So the two things that, the biggest thing, I guess, that makes us different than the local Plymouth Police Department is, number one, for those of you who are not familiar with it, we are a full-time sworn police agency. We have full police powers in the town of Plymouth as well as the town of Holderness. We're all full-time certified police officers. Like I said, I think our most junior officer has 16 years of experience, and that's Officer Hutchins' computer that I'm using now. And she's been with the university for her entire 16 years. We have a couple of people have been with state agencies and local agencies. Most of them have been, again, 20 to 27 years or 28, even 30 years of experience. For us, University Police Department, I break it down as simple as this. Our priority and our focus is the safety and security of Plymouth State University, its students, its staff, its faculty, and that's where it starts and ends with us. Do we do other things? Yeah, we back up Plymouth PD on calls. We handle calls for Plymouth PD when they're tied up. And in the summertime, that's our main role. Really, is to work on backing up local agencies, both Plymouth and Holderness. But for the school year, our priority is our 47 acres that we have that's Plymouth State, whether that's down at the Allwell in the field house, the athletic fields, physical plant, the ice arena, or up here on the main campus here in Plymouth, up on the hill, as we call it. We really focus on working with the students and being, security minded for the campus. I mean, in today's day and age, we've gone since I've started here, we only had a handful of buildings that were key card access. The rest of them were all actual physical keys. And we've moved, I think the majority of our campus now is all key card access. It does a couple of things. You don't have to carry a bulky key with you. You don't have to lose a key. And then in our case, if we lose a master key, then it becomes very expensive. But with the key card, it also gives us a fingerprint every time somebody swipes in and out of a building, and lets us know. It's helped to solve a lot of issues in the past few years about, people telling us, I don't remember when I came home last night. Somebody took my ID and may have used it. And so we can find out and track where those IDs go. As far as Plymouth Police Department goes, their main focus is the taxpayers in town, the businesses and the taxpayers. That's what they are there for. They focus on serving the community around here. They certainly handle, if any of you happen to live off campus or have friends that live off campus, that's going to be the first interaction with law enforcement they'd have would be Plymouth Police Department or Holderness Police Department, not us. We may go over and, like I said, back them up, but for the most part, you're going to deal with Plymouth or Holderness, and their priority is dealing and taking care of their taxpayers, the people who live on the back streets and the businesses downtown. It doesn't mean they don't enforce stuff, but they generally don't come onto campus and patrol on campus, and we don't patrol outside of campus. We don't stop motor vehicles as a general rule unless somebody's doing something really egregious. Our focus is the safety and security of our staff and our buildings here. And one of the things that Chief Temporino has done a fantastic job of is integrating us with the student body and assigning every officer gets a housing unit. So they can sit in a normal year. I'll say that I'll qualify with that. Uh, we go in, sit in on floor meetings or dorm meetings, and every officer also gets assigned an athletic team in the fall, in the winter, spring, so we can be a liaison for those students. And I try and tell students, you have to remember something. 75 to 80% of what you do on college campus is not sitting in a classroom. It's learning to get along with somebody you've never met before. And you may have met them via social media, but the majority of people at freshmen that come here live in a dorm. You move in with somebody you've never met before. You don't know what their habits are. You're now responsible for getting yourself up every morning and going to class, feeding yourself, doing your laundry. Mom and dad aren't there to do it for you. So that's really becoming, it really is a big stepping out party as far as becoming an adult and learning to take care of yourself and taking responsibility for that. So that's something that we take pride in as a police department, that we're allowed to go in and meet with students and talk to students. And I'll debunk it for you right off. I mean, this isn't TV. We don't have people standing on every street telling us who's done what and snitches everywhere. We need the help of the student body to solve crimes. We can't just solve them all on our own. Most of the time, we need. And if we foster a good relationship and keep that relationship good with the students, then we get help. Silent witness tips, things of those nature, and people willing to come in and talk to us. But there's also a certain amount of people, a certain percentage of people and students that show up here that have never been away from their hometown or out of their home state. So they show up here, and it's a big adjustment. And some people don't make that adjustment, and it's hard for them. So we really want to make sure that we're mindful of that, and that we can help relieve any anxiety for them or their mom and dad. I try and take every opportunity when I see mom and dads around to talk to them about it. And I tell them, hey, listen, I grew up in this town. I always dub myself, I'm kind of a local knucklehead. I've been here my whole life. And, I've traveled all around the country. I've been around the world a little bit. But I've always come back here. It's a place I love. I chose to raise my family in this area. The school systems have been very good. And so I think I have a unique perspective of what's going on. And I tell parents up front, I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that crimes don't happen in Plymouth or at Plymouth State University. They do. 3,600 students that are strangers, things are going to happen. They come from different backgrounds all over the place in different parts of the country and even different parts of the world, as you can tell, the amount of students we have that are foreign students. So I think my chief has really fostered a great program here with being liaisons around. And I think it helps too that there isn't a police officer that works for us that doesn't have kids. And I would say we have some people have young elementary school kids all the way up to my oldest will be 32 in December. So they're all different ages. And so we have a vast experience, which really I think makes it nice to be able to relate to that. So things don't come as a surprise for us with all that experience, which really does help.
So basically, you always say that you're here to support the students. So because sometimes the students might get the impression that they may be intimidated by the officers on campus. And since they're new, this class is a freshman class, how do you support those students when you're around campus? There are other things that you do to support them?
Sure. We make sure that when there's events on campus, and again, let me qualify with that saying under a normal year, obviously we're very restricted with the COVID going on, but in normal circumstances, we try and make sure officers go to every event, whether that be an athletic event, whether that be an event in the hub that's put on by the student body, whether it be somebody who's brought to campus. We just want to be around. We want to be around to answer questions and try and make ourselves more personable, if you will, from the standpoint of we want to be approachable. And you freshmen here have not had the experience of us. Normally, we work traffic 3 times a day, which sounds kind of funny, but usually my spot is usually right in front of the Merrill. And part of that is to help vehicular traffic get through so we don't have any incidents between vehicles and students. But it also gives us an opportunity to interact with students again. The other thing too is most of the officers here will take advantage of it and go up to the dining hall and we'll sit and eat with students or be approachable. We want students to be able to see us as people first and police officers second, and don't be intimidated or afraid of the uniform. This is a job we do. Most of us, like I said, have done for a long time, and take pride in being able to talk to students, and I want you to be able to come up to me and say hi to me and talk to me, and that's the same with every officer here. They want the same thing. We want to have a good friendly relationship with the students because it does help. And if a student's having problems, it may be a roommate issue, it may be something they're having a home life problem with. I think most of us can either help them out with the answer. If not, we certainly can point them in the right direction to get an answer and get them the help they need. And that's one of the things that the program that's been developed by the chief and the staff over the last few years is the Maxient program, where if students, get committed an infraction on campus in one of the dorms or in around campus, you'll end up going to judicial and having a hearing in front of judicial, as opposed to just taking everybody to Plymouth Police Department, processing them, arresting them, giving them paperwork, costing them more money and time going into court for things that we think are better off being dealt with on campus, as opposed to making somebody go through, because nobody wants to graduate from Plymouth State in 4 years with a degree and a criminal record to go along with it. I mean, that just doesn't work in today's day and age. Nobody needs that.
Yes. This is students have questions for you, but this is I am curious about your experience now during the pandemic. How different is it from different semesters and now? And what have you experienced?
Well, I think one of the things we've experienced is we've lost that since March. We've lost that personal touch with the student body. We're not being able to go and certainly go to events that we aren't having. Obviously, athletic events. My daughter's plays soccer here, and she was heartbroken when the games were canceled last weekend. It was so much she was looking forward to it her senior year, but you lose that personal touch and being able to go and see them, go to support students when they have other programs, not just athletic events, but whether it be in the Silver Center, whether it be at the Hub or wherever it may be. So that definitely is kind of one of those things that by now I'm usually getting to recognize all the freshman faces, the new faces on campus, and seeing the students that I've seen for the last 2-3 years that are here, or even some of the students that have come back and are working on their master's program. So we've lost that personal touch, and that definitely has made a difference. So I don't, I'm hoping, fingers crossed, we get back to some semblance of normal in the next, by the next semester. I hope. We'll see.
Yeah, definitely. I hear you. So if anybody would like to ask a question at this point, you,
I'll ask one. I had a question about what you love most about your job.
Sorry, I said hi to my chief. What I love about my job, I think for me, it's been the same probably since day one when I started 27, 28 years ago, whatever it was. I enjoy helping people get through problems. I enjoy the personal interaction with people, whether it be students or whether it be people that I work with out on the street. I will say this, one of the biggest things I've taken pride in my entire career has always been the fact that whenever I dealt with somebody, um, how many people thanked me when they left the PD, shook my hand and thanked me for being, treating them decent. There's never been a reason to treat people anything other than that, as far as I'm concerned. So I think probably the personal interaction to me is my favorite part about the job. It's what I love most.
Someone else has a question?
Yeah, I can ask.
Thank you.
What made you do this kind of work?
I come from a line, my father was a New Hampshire State Trooper. So when I was growing up, he was a trooper, and in the back of my mind, it was something I always wanted to do. I didn't pursue it right out of high school. I actually went to college for a short period of time, didn't like that, and then started in the construction business. And to this day, I still have my own business I do on the side on my time off and stuff. I'm off in the summer here, unlike the other officers. I have 10 weeks off every summer. It's a different position for me as far as that goes. But um, it was something in the back of my mind I always wanted to do, and it took a while to get going. And then I always wanted something. I wanted a career. I wanted something that, for lack of a better word, I guess, give my family benefits. I want to have insurance. I wanted to have something stable I could provide for my wife and my kids. And this was a job I always wanted to do. And I finally, when I pursued it and went after it, it's been wonderfully rewarding. I can tell you that.
Anybody else would like to ask a question? Don't be shy.
I can
Yeah,
ask
I'll
another
ask a
one.
question.
Mason can go.
Okay, what's one of the scariest things you've had to deal with?
Geez, been a lot of things over my career. Probably having a weapon pulled on me um, early on in my career, and that it's one of those things that you can train and train and train for, and then when it happens, you hope that your training kicks in. I'm fortunate enough and to say that I've never discharged my weapon in all this time, which has been good. Nobody ever wants to do that, and no police officer wants to have to get to that point. But I've had some pretty scary moments when it comes to that, and most of those have revolved around arrest situations, encountering people. I say, it kind of comes with the territory. I want to say, it's what I guess what you sign up for. But unfortunately, the good moments have way outweighed the bad moments. But I'd say facing a weapon is probably the scariest thing I've ever had to do.
I got one. What are the biggest tensions between the town and the university from your perspective?
Well, I think the biggest tension there comes down to most everything every year, right? I mean, you can boil almost all problems down if you really look at it, and it comes down to money. The town doesn't think the university pays enough, and the university thinks they pay too much. And I think that's always been, for as long as I can remember, that's been it. Well, I can tell you, having grown up in this town, I could take you and put you in a cruiser and drive you around, and I could name all the houses where students are living now, or people that I knew growing up that were not college houses. It was only a handful of college houses over on Russell Street, and maybe one or two up on Pleasant Street. A few of them interspersed around the town here and there, but majority of Langdon Street, basically from Merrill all the way over to as far as Pleasant Street, is almost 100% college students now, and that was never the case. I think when the tension happens when the college builds another building in town, and I think the taxpayers look at that as that's less property that can be taxed. So it creates it boil it down to money. And I think it's a love-hate relationship. And I've been fortunate enough to talk to people over the years about people that live in other college communities. They say the same thing. They welcome all the students back with open arms at the end of August, September. Thank God you're back. It's great. It's wonderful. Welcome back, because you folks are the monetary mechanism that keeps our community going. We're not a manufacturing community anymore. And then by the end of April and May, everybody's like, get out of town, go home. We'll see you in the fall, but we've had enough of you. And that really comes down to it. And the people I've talked to in other communities say the same thing. They feel the same way. I think there's a place out near Ithaca. Somebody told me that where Ithaca, Cornell, and there's 3 universities right in that area. They have a big, massive party for this barbecue for the students when they all come back. And then at the end of the year, they're like, goodbye. I'm sure you students probably, some of you even, well, most of you are freshmen, so you probably didn't have to experience, but I think our upperclassmen certainly experienced it when they had to go home in March. And instead of going home in May and spending only a couple of months with their mom and dad at home, and then coming back to school, they spent 6 or 7 months at home with their mom and dad, and they hadn't done that since they lived in high school. And I'm sure for parents, it's more of an adjustment. You've got an adult living in your house now who, for lack of, I guess, if you want to call it, they can come and go as they please. They're adults. A lot of you have your own vehicles, so you have your jobs and stuff. So I think that's an adjustment that, a lot of students had to make this summer. And I think everybody's, for the most part, I would say, I'm very proud actually of the students' way they've handled this COVID this fall, and they've kept up with their testing and being diligent about that and trying to do the social distancing. And I think it's probably the toughest group, the hardest group it's been on has been the freshmen, because it's your first time away from home. You want to get out and experience all the things that college has to do for you and all it has to offer. And you want to be able to go out and see with your friends and hang out with them, party on the weekends and go here and go there. And you've been restricted. And we understand it's hard on you, but in order to stay open and continue, instead of going completely remote learning and staying here on campus, everybody has to do their part, us and the student body and the faculty as well. So, as you can tell, normally Professor Fernandez has me come into her classroom, and I think I've done it for the last 3 years, and sit in a couple of our classrooms and talk to you face to face. And this is different. This is a new way of learning. This is a new environment for everybody.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Sure.
How do you see students' behaviors change after they encounter UPD, whether it be for a good reason or a bad reason?
Well, I say this. I hope the behavior changes. I hope we have a positive enough influence and a good enough relationship with them that we can, police work is about trying to modify people's behavior, whether you're doing speed enforcement and modify their driving behavior, or you're out doing whatever criminal behavior. We're trying to get people to change their ways and follow along the rules, if you will. I think we've had a pretty good run of it, if you will, with students lately, the last few years. But there are people that you're just going to run into that no matter what you do, they're just going to want to fight you every step of the way. And I don't mean physically fight you, but they'll argue with you, and, sky is blue, water's wet, and they'll argue with you and say no and no. And so those people there, sometimes it's just, you'll understand as you go along in life, there's some people you'll have to have people you work with that no matter what you do, it's not going to change them. I think our current political environment is a perfect example of that. You're not going to change one side or the other. I think 99.9% of the people in this country have already made up their mind who they're going to vote for, and you're not going to change that. And I don't think this debate tonight's going to change it either. But as far as our behavior with the students go, I hope that we are able to get to somebody early enough so they don't go off the rails so bad that they can't be helped and they have to be asked to leave the university. That's not what we want. Ultimately, we'd like to keep our retention rate really high and have students come back and have a positive experience here. And so I don't think we've had too many students over the past few years since I've been here that have been bad enough that you just want them to leave. We would like to keep everybody here if we can. So.
I have one. What's the most common complaint when a party gets busted?
Common complaint from the students or from the people?
From the people.
Taxpayers. From the taxpayers' perspective, it's very simple. There's 2 things that people complain about all the time: the noise and the trash. Waking up in the morning and finding beer bottles and cans and litter on their lawn, or their fences tipped over, or bird bath tipped over, or something like that. But the noise complaints, those come in all the time. And that's what I try and tell people, you have to understand something. If you have student housing, off-campus housing, interspersed in with people who are regular residents who are taxpayers, if I'm paying X amount of dollars to pay taxes to the town of Plymouth to have my streets plowed and swept and everything taken care of, I don't want on a Wednesday morning when I got to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to hear at 2 o'clock in the morning that there's a band playing or loud music playing next door and people screaming and hollering and waking me up. You know, as a taxpayer, I want to be able to know that I can, you know, call my local police department, and have that taken care of. But I think the noise complaint and the trash is probably the two biggest complaints.